honored to welcome Mr. Hussain Dawood, Chairman of Engro Corporation, Dawood Hercules, and the Dawood Foundation. He is a visionary leader and philanthropist, and his remarkable contributions to education, health, and sustainable development inspire us all. Joining him for this session is our co-host, Mohammed Zain, to engage in a thought-provoking discussion. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Hussain Dawood and Mohammed Zain.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you once again welcoming Mr. Hussain Dawood. As this session is only between you and the food, so don't worry, we will be quick. But as the food is fuel to your body, at the same time sitting with the personalities like Mr. Hussain Dawood and learning from him, from his experiencing, definitely will nourish your brain. So that's what we need in life nowadays. Thank you very much, sir, once again. So one thing which was not mentioned, let me quickly mention that Mr. Hussain Dawood got Hilal Imtiaz as well. And one more which I need to read, and that is basically, allow me to read because I don't want to be mistaken that it is the International Distinction of Officer of the Order of Merit of the Italian Republic. So the personality I'm honored to sit next is not only recognized within Pakistan, but internationally as well. Thank you, sir. To starting with your early years, how difficult it was to transform you as a person?
Thank you very much indeed for inviting me here and giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about my life story. However, I'm very conscious of the fact that everybody's tired. I would like to get on with dinner and then go home. So let's make it nice and short. I had requested that instead of having a monologue, it would be better to have a dialogue where any of you could have opportunity to ask questions. But in order to be able to ask questions, I think I have to give you some substance. And very quickly, then, my life is it's longish. And I was born in 1943, pre-partition, and my father, who started the group our guess is that he started at the age of 12, so that was 1917. He was born in 1905. And we went through our challenges. Initially, we were in the business of spices, and we didn't do too well. We went bankrupt. And then father started a business in cotton yarns. And in cotton yarn business, he was able to expand the business so that we became the cotton yarn kings of India, pre-partition. 40 different outlets throughout India. Father then decided that he would emigrate to the UK in 1946. So he, along with my mother, my sister, myself, we left India and went to the UK. And there we settled in Manchester because Manchester was a center of the textile industry. And he went out there to try to buy a textile unit. Fortunately, we were not successful in buying it, but what he did was he set up an office and started trading in textiles. Now, being a serial entrepreneur, he noticed that when he went around the various textile mills in the UK, it's just after the end of the Second World War, while the textile mills were weaving their products, their cloth, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the process of textiles, but basically it's two parts. We call it a warp and a weft. But the warp is a very long uh, series of yarns, and then you have the weft, which goes in on the side, perpendicular, which allows then for the machine to beat it up and make a fabric. Well, in those days, the technology was that the weft would always be inserted by what is known as a pern. A pern is about 9 inches long. And you wind yarn onto that. And then the machine hits the pern backwards and forwards and beats it up after every insertion. So what he noticed was that the British weavers, when the yarn broke, instead of trying to taking the trouble of tying the yarn, they would take the pern out, throw it away, and put a new pern in. So he noticed that there were very large inventories of perns in all the various textile mills. Now he befriended then the Chartered Bank branch manager, and in that he was able to secure a £1 million line of credit. And with that £1 million, he then bought up all of these various perns because Pakistan had come into being, and he realized that he could easily rewind all the yarns from the perns to make cones again. And that's what was his business in India. So he bought shiploads of these perns, shipped it back to Pakistan, and provided a lot of employment and the rewinding of these perns into cones. And then we started marketing the cones, first in Karachi and then expanding it up north to Lahore and north of Pakistan. And we quickly grew, and we were able to set up textile mill known as Dawood cotton mills back in 1950. And we quickly to become the largest textile producers, and we would then start to backward integrate. So we're starting with cotton and going all the way through to finished product. So we became the largest cotton textile producers and also the largest exporters. This all happened because of the Korean War, which came about in 1953, in which there's very large demand for all types of products, and the Pakistan economy, which was non-existent before that, suddenly was able to take advantage of that and start to establish itself. So those are the early years. And after that, father went and started to procure different types of industries. At that time, because it was a new economy, the government of Pakistan set up an entity called the PIDC, the Pakistan Industrial Development Corporation. And the job of the PIDC was to establish industry and then sell them to the private sector. So we were one of the ones who would buy some of these. So we bought quite a few units from the government, both in East and West Pakistan. And we bought, of course, Buriwala, Lawrenceville, we had Dawood cotton, we set up Dylon after that for doing synthetics. We had, in East Pakistan, we bought up Kanafli Paper Mills Limited. We started up other activities like Dawood Shipping, and later on, we set up the Dawood Jute Mills, and we set up Kanafli Rayon and Cellophane. So we were able to expand rather significantly. And our zenith came in 1967 when my father invited the then President Ayub Khan and the whole cabinet to come down to Kanafli for the inauguration of Kanafli Paper and Rayon. The interesting thing about the Kanafli Paper and Rayon was the fact it's the first time that rayon was being produced from bamboo. Up to that time, bamboo was a worthless product Because we had Kanapur paper mills, which we had bought, which was in substantial losses, we had turned it around, repaid the World Bank every last penny of the principal and interest, making us the darlings of the World Bank, and bamboo was used for paper, and now it's being used for rayon and for cellophane. And so we were able to convert a very important agriculture product of East Pakistan into a cash crop. And by 1967, when we said we had reached our zenith, our group was employing 35,000 people, and the value of the group at that time was $250 million at that time. Same time, Dawood started business with a borrowed capital of $10,000. So you could tell the difference, how far we have progressed. Thereafter, problems arose in Pakistan, political problems. The Khan became unpopular, the government fell, and came a change of government. However, Yahya Khan was there. He unfortunately didn't manage manage the country, particularly the political and foreign affairs level, and the net result was that we lost East Pakistan. And the loss of East Pakistan, we lost half our group. And the half that remained, Bhutto came along and nationalized half of that. Now you all heard of the concept of Black Swan events. Imagine having 2 Black Swan events within 2 months. So our group was naturally decimated. Fortunately, all of our family members were able to come back from Pakistan, East Pakistan. We were on the last flight coming out of East Pakistan, and it caused, naturally, a situation where we couldn't support all the family members. So therefore, the family members started to disintegrate. And in the disintegration, a lot of, obviously, a lot of negotiations took place. Thereafter, we were considerably consumed by these negotiations.
I'm getting the message, the mic you have to a little bit up.
You want to hear?
Yeah.
Oh, my apologies.
They're unable to hear.
Thank you. My apologies. So, by 1973, things were not looking too well for us, and so a lot of the family members were then looking for other pastures to develop their lives and their futures. We were unfortunately going through yet greater difficulties. We had set up a state-of-the-art fertilizer project in Lahore, Shekhapura. At that time, it's the largest single train process you have. It's 1,000 tons a day, in partnership with Hercules. So Hercules, the United States, and ourselves. At that time, the World Bank was very keen that fertilizer should be handed over to the private sector, convinced President Ayub. There was an announcement that 3 parties would be, 1 party out of 3 would be financed by the World Bank. So the competition was who could get the industrial plot fastest. We were able to procure the land in Shekhapura within a world record time of 3 weeks. So the World Bank funded us, and the World Bank, IFC was a partner, World Bank and USAID were the principals who were going to provide the debt. And we had NIT coming in, and we also had the partners of Hercules and our group, and completed our project within time and within budget. And the interesting part was that just as the project was being completed in 1971, the war was declared with India, and the project was actually strafed by the Indian Air Force. We were fortunate that no major damage took place. So we ran the project, and the government of its own volition, the Zulfikar Ali Bhutto government, decided to put restraints on our profitability, with the net result that the company could not grow. All the profits were being taken away by the government. So obviously our ability to grow was severely restricted. And so we went through a very long period of difficulty, with different family members then seeking their futures elsewhere. One part of the family went off to Canada, another part went on to UK, and so on. Finally, it left that in 1982, we had an agreement in which we settled our differences, and in the settlement, left was my father, my two brothers, and myself. One of my brothers decided he didn't want to stay in Pakistan, so he exited. And within 5 years, the second brother decided he wanted to exit. So that left my father and me. And since that time, I'm sorry. Since that time, it was just my father and myself. About 1997 then, I got an idea that, because of the gas situation, we're not going to get extra gas, so we couldn't expand our Hercules. So then I looked around and I said, why not buy my competitor? So I started buying Engro shares from the stock market, and I will say that I was able to complete the first hostile takeover in the country. So we acquired Engro. And with that, then, we were able to stabilize our fertilizer business. However, changes naturally took place in that, in the sense that we wanted to develop the concept of the combination of family business and professional management to show that this combination was the best combination you could have, rather than have just pure family business or pure professionals. So this is a concept that I had developed, and my effort was to develop this as a new model, as a way in which Pakistan economy could grow, Pakistan private sector could grow. So that's 20 years of that. We've had 5 CEOs in Engro, all professionals. I had stated at that time that only professionals would manage, but that we would be on the board and oversee the whole project. So we were able to expand that. Back in 2012, we undertake a $1 billion investment and setting up at that time the world's largest single-train, state-of-the-art ammonia urea process. And it had a capacity of 1.3 million tons a year. This is compared to Dawood Hercules, which is 360,000 tons a year. So it's considerably larger. But then the technology had moved on. So we successfully completed that. And then the government wanted the development of Thar. So we then were able to bring about a rapprochement between the federal government and the provincial government. You see, under the Constitution, coal is considered an energy. So then if it's energy, then it's a federal government ownership. And if it's considered a mineral, then it's a provincial government ownership. So the two governments were constantly having disagreements as to who owned Tar. So we came in between, and we then were able to develop the whole project, and today Tar is a very successful, and with it we set up 660 megawatts of power generation, and along with that, the government is also interested in securing the energy stabilization within the country, because the gas field was going down, so they wanted to establish an LNG facility. So we participated in that in a tender. We won it, and we set up an LNG facility in the port of Karachi within a world record time of 330 days. And since then, that project has been performing at 99% capacity utilization, and by the grace of God, in 8 years, we've never had a single safety violation. In addition to that, we had a joint venture with Vopak for chemical terminal, and in that, in the whole Vopak system globally, there are 58 terminals. In that, we are number one in terms of safety. By the grace of God, we've never had a safety incident in 26 years. So that briefly brings you up to date.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dawood. It was really very inspiring. In fact, I literally felt the whole journey, starting pre-partition and then the Black Swan events. Let me just explain, since we are in my educational session, so let me explain that Black Swan events basically is a terminology used which any event which comes as a surprise. So obviously, the company was going through these things, like just he mentioned about the East Pakistan incident and other things. It's very amazing stuff that how your company was $250 million, and then suddenly these things happened, and then you again came up, and you had some, family decisions as well, moving and leaving. So what motivation kept you staying in Pakistan, and then gradually, of course, you are a success story today. So what lesson would you like to share with the people like me and the people who are sitting in the audience?
Well, when we moved to England, emigrated to England in 1946, I was a UK citizen. When Pakistan came into being, my father decided that all of us would take Pakistani passports, relinquish our UK citizenship. So I became Pakistani. And naturally, Pakistan was our country. My God, it was the love and the regard and the motivation and the identification and the passion to go out and create a phenomenal country. We were declared by the World Bank as a model developing state of the world in 1964. We were, Pakistan, the fourth largest Asian economy in the 1960s. The only three larger ones were China, Japan, and India. India had a GDP of $39 billion. Pakistan's GDP was $10 billion. Singapore's GDP was $0.3 billion. Israel's GDP was $0.3 billion. So look how far ahead we were. We were so far ahead that I assure you, ladies and gentlemen, that none of these countries matched Pakistan. India was way behind us. You talk about Singapore, you talk about Taiwan, you talk about all these great Asian tigers, all of them were far, far behind Pakistan. What a country we had. What a people. Amazing. That time, when I joined the business in 1968, at that time, the feeling was, what is there that we cannot do? And today, the feeling is, what is there that I can do. So what do we learn from this? We've got to understand why, what happened, where did we go? Why is it that we've literally fallen off the cliff? Very simply put, why is it that India is doing so well? I only try to learn from what other countries are doing, whether it's India or Bangladesh or whether it is here in the Middle East or whatever. One tries to learn. Well, I just want to compare it with India because that's where we came from. In India, why is it that they are growing and they've become the world's third largest economy? I mean, in 1990, they were behind us. How is it by 2024, they're so far ahead of us that we've become irrelevant? The reason is this. We have to realize that progress in a country is when we all contribute. If we, the people, are constrained from performing, we have to ask permission for everything that we want to do. We're spending more time getting permissions than getting the job done. Put it simply, the government in India has decided to embrace the private sector. I heard L.D. Avani talk about that when I went over to India in the India Today conclave. He was there himself, and he explained how India changed. And he said that we wanted India to become a force in international affairs. We realized to do that we needed a strong economy. Therefore, we would have to absorb, we have to accept, embrace the private sector and make it part of the security paradigm. However, he said, we have to go across the political divide and convince the Congress party also, which they did, and therefore, within India, they decided on a market-based economy as the form of economy that would forever be sustained in India. The various governments would come, they would only have nuances, but they could not change the basic system. We have not done that. We are still switching from one type of economy to another. Sometimes it's socialism, sometimes it's a quasi-communism, sometimes it's market-based, sometimes it's bureaucratically controlled, and so on. We just can't make up our minds. The net result is that we are not able to have sustained policies. Now, very quickly, I'll tell you what the difference is. The difference is that in India, they are always supporting growth of the private sector. So it's like having a tailwind when you are flying. You know, your aircraft goes very fast and goes much more safely. In Pakistan, it's all headwind. They don't like you growing. Now, I've done 56 years of work. For 56 years, I've been trying to convince the government that, listen, you've got to understand. You've got to let your people perform. Get the bureaucratic controls off. The job of government is to govern. It is not to do the work that the private sector is doing. Let me very briefly tell you what that means. And I've explained this to both Mr. Nawaz Sharif and Mr. Imran Khan. In an open forum, I told them what the problem is. I said, listen, when we run a company, there are two fundamental organs. One's called the board, one's called the management. The board sets the direction. The board determines what are going to be the fundamental investments, the larger decisions, and it's the job of management to perform. So the board is concerned more with what we call the balance sheet. and the management is concerned with the income statement. I explained that to him. I said, look, it's the same in government. The government is the board. Decide what your priorities are. Decide what you want to get done. Fix your policies to incentivize whatever you want to incentivize. Then let the private sector get on with it and produce the results. But if the government decides to come into the area, the sphere of the private sector, then you're going to get confusion. And that's exactly what you got today. Government should concentrate on what it's best at, governing, setting the right. They're the board. It's for them to determine the long-term vision, a long-term aspiration. But the private sector's job is to perform and help the government realize that. We don't work as a team. If in this organization you didn't work as a team, do you think you'd be able to produce the results you had? Do you think you could get so many applauses of the achievements that you brought about? Impossible. So you have to realize that this is what we just have to decide on. It's that simple. It was decided in 1991 when Sartaj Aziz was a finance minister. And at that time, he started to literally change the paradigm. It's 1 week before India changed the paradigm. Manmohan Singh did it 1 week later. And can you believe that Manmohan Singh was asking us, Sartaj Aziz, how are you guys doing it? You show us. The difference is that they sustained it. And we in Pakistan, unfortunately, went the wrong way.
No, indeed, as he mentioned that Pakistan is amazing country, no doubt about it. And Pakistanis are amazing, and that is the whole reason that we have the growth, economic growth contribution from the people like Mr. Hussain Dawood. My apology, we are running behind the time, I understand that. So, and one more example that people of Pakistan, wherever they are amazing. So that's why this amazing place we are sitting right now. So just the last question, since we have to, we will continue because Mr. Dawood is with us, so we can continue conversation later on. So what legacy would you like to leave behind for the businesses, for your own community? Let's talk about business. Forget about politics. So as a business, what legacy would you like to, as a philanthropist as well, would you like to leave for the community and for the world?
Well, usually at this stage, when everybody's tired out, I take a vote. So I believe in democracy. And the vote I take is this. If you want me to continue, please raise your hands. If you don't, I'll terminate and we'll go out for dinner. So how many of you are interested in me continuing? And if there's not a majority, we go for dinner. So can we try again? How many would like me to continue? Okay, fine. Very quickly, I don't want you to come here to waste your time. I was constantly thinking, what is it about my life I can share with you which you can take away? Perhaps, and depending on your age, if you're very senior, obviously, you may not be able to do it, but maybe you can pass that information on to your children or your grandchildren, and they can continue it. So when we use the word success, if there's 400 people here, there'll be 400 definitions of success. Because success, the definition of success, is very unique to the individual. And what is success to one is not necessarily success to another. So in this world, everybody has his aspirations and his definition of success. But you have to ask yourself a question, is there a second definition of success, a different one? Ladies and gentlemen, if there's anybody, I like the one person who believes that he's never going to die, to put up his hand. Are we all going to die? All right, what happens after that? We've got to think about that. Okay? Now, you want to get into a club, you have to abide by its rules. You don't abide by its rules, you won't get admission. Paradise is the same. It has its own definition. And if you want to get into paradise, then you have to abide by the rules. It's nothing different. The only difference is this, is that the life on this world is 50 years. And the life in paradise, one day, is 50,000 years. So you've got to make up your mind. You know, like an examination you talk, I want to become an engineer or a lawyer or an MBA or whatever. I have to take these exams and study for 2 years like I had to when I went to qualify for my MBA. This is your examination. Now, do you want to succeed in this examination so you get into paradise? Or do you really want to do it your style and go the wrong way? I decided I want to get into paradise. That's my success formula. And I'm prepared to make any changes that I need to do in my life in order to make it there. Now let's talk in practical terms. What does that mean? It means you think that I'm operating in the environment of Pakistan. We all know what's going on over there. What is the first thing that we're known about? Corruption. How do you do business without corruption? Difficult. So those are the challenges I faced. Whenever I was presented with a situation where I had to pay people under the table, I said, no, I don't give a damn. I'm not going to do it. They're surprised. Why not? I said, I don't care about my returns here. I care about my returns up there. What am I going to do? What's the difference if I have a couple of extra zeros? Who cares? What matters to me is my success so I can get into paradise. Because Allah Ta'ala has promised you that that is a life which is beyond your wildest expectations. So why shouldn't I aim for that? So I apply logic. So I conduct my affairs in Pakistan absolutely above board. Because to me, money in this life is not that important. I would rather be pray to your Creator. You have enough, fine. But if the choice comes, I'll always opt for the other. So what had happened? We had Dawood Hercules, the very project that I talked to you about. I had to sell it. Why did I have to sell it? Because they turned around and refused to give me the gas. So I had to run up and look after the people day and night, year after year. How am I going to get that money to sustain it? So what did he do? He forced me to sell it. They said, just pay me. Job done. I said, sorry, you're talking to the wrong man. I don't do those things. So today, I am not the owner of Dawood Hercules. And that's not the only example. We did this in Tar, where you have a situation there where people had to sell their land. You know, the usual formula is that 25% goes to the bureaucracy, 25% goes to the politicians, and the poor guy selling the land gets, if he's lucky, he'll get 50. So when we bought the land, we told the people, open your bank account. We will make sure that we'll give you 100% value and put it straight into your bank account. So what happened? We got a huge pushback from the politicians and from the bureaucracy. We said, sorry, that's the way we work. You don't like it? Lump it. The net result was that everybody got used to the idea that if Anglo is coming here, don't ask them for any money because they'll never give it to you. So you see, we can't succeed. We can't succeed if we've got the courage. So in my organization, I'm promoting this. What is it called? It's called the development of character. What is character? It is your innate self-confidence, your capacity to be able to take the challenges of life. And hasn't Allah Ta'ala said in the Quran that you're not here for a free lunch? You're here because you are going to be challenged. So why are we failing at our challenges? Allah Ta'ala has promised us that He'll never place upon us a burden greater than our strength to bear. So, success is guaranteed. On top of that, He said, why are you worried about risk? He said, I determine what is risk. Do you want to then tell Allah you've got more brains than risk? You want to go out and take a loan so that you can make more money? And what is that money going to do for you? You know, we all talk about profits. I talk to my profession, I say, hey, there's an investment. They say, we're going to do this, that, the other. This will be the profit. I ask them a simple question. I say, wonderful. What am I going to do with the profits when I get it? Oh, we hadn't thought of that. So what's the point of making the money? Ladies and gentlemen, to build character, this is what our beloved Holy Prophet ﷺ came here to tell us. Build your character and your good manners. He said, the best of you are those who are best in character and good manners. Character, the foundation of character, is always truth. So it's a very simple formula. It's called TTHIS. You can announce it as this. It's got two T's. And what do they stand for? The first T is truth, truthfulness. The second T, trustworthiness. The H, humility. The I is integrity. And the S is the very thing that Allah Ta'ala says that when I challenge you, you've got to have sabr. So you think you can take the challenges of life on your own? Go ahead. Bully for you. But didn't you, when you were young, didn't you rely on your parents? When you got into some difficulties? Of course you did. Now that you're older, you need to rely on a bigger force. What could be a bigger force than your Creator? And what did He say? He said, trust me. But do we trust Him? I'd like to read you a little story. Do you mind if I can take the time?
This fuel to your mind will keep your stomach empty, so don't worry, yeah?
A very interesting story. A person started to walk on a rope tied between two tall towers, two buildings. He was walking slowly, balancing a long stick in his hands. He had his son sitting on his shoulders. Everyone on the ground was watching him in bated breath and were very intense. When he slowly reached the second tower, everyone clapped, whistled, and applauded him. They shook hands and took selfies. He asked the crowd, "Do you all think I can walk back on the same rope now from this side to that side?" The crowd shouted in one voice, "Yes, yes, you can." Then he said, "Do you trust me?" he asked. They said, "Yes, yes, we are ready to bet on you." He said, "Okay, can any one of you give me your child to sit on my shoulder? I will take the child to the other side safely." There was stunned silence. Everyone became quiet. Ladies and gentlemen, belief is different from trust. For trust, you need to surrender totally. We believe in the Almighty, but do we trust Him?
What a beautiful message. What a beautiful message. And definitely, we are going to implement this TTHIS in our life. And this is a beautiful message, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Ms. Dawood, for your beautiful time and beautiful thoughts. And God bless you always. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you could please remain on stage. I kindly request Dr. Faisal Ikram and Mr. Zahid Hassan to present a token of appreciation to Mr. Hussain Dawood.